So now, here's where the fun part is going to start. Of course, we need the recoil onto our gun. So what is recoil? If we just, not shaking the camera around or stuff like that. So we're going to start making our FPS rig a little bit more complex, and we will start with, first of all, splitting up our parts. And for now, I'm just going to use the FPS parts, however. Okay, so let's go and take a look at our rig. I'm going to make a camera shaker first of all, so we can shake our camera. Okay, paste it here. So we have made camera. Okay, we'll start with this, and let's create a utility script that is going to allow us to shake things. Let's open that up. Let's do this. Let's make a namespace. Okay, so update. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to be using an animation curve. Shake curve. Okay, which means we're going to need a speed value. So how fast we're going to be going through this. If we want this to be looping, and if we want this to be doing iterations. And I think just iterations should do fine. We need to know if we are shaking, and we can also have a debug shake as well. But for now, I think we should be fine. So if you're not shaking, return. Otherwise, if you do, we also need to have a t so we can evaluate. So if you do, we're going to be adding on time.delta time, and of course if t greater than 1, t equals 1 is shaking equals false. Then float evaluate the shake curve dot evaluate t. Time.delta time will be multiplied by our speed, and then we have our t, and then we need to know how much we need to be moving and which axis to actually move. So we will do axis and x, y, z. I think we only use y for our camera. Maybe we use x as well. We'll see. So we can actually make this into a class of its own, to be honest. But let's fix this first, and then we add it later. So we will do vector3 target position, and then switch. We actually need to add public axis, and let's do switch axis. Then whatever the case is, we do target position.xe, then y, and then z. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Then transform.local position equals target position. Now, if we're looping, if it's not looping, then you can stop shaking, but you need to keep track of iterations. We also need to is done. We need to know this. So is done equals true, and let's do this onto its own method. So we'll do void shake restart, or just shake, I guess. For shake, we'll do t equals 0 and is shaking equals true. Then over here, after we are done, if is done, then we need to be checking. Actually, we also need to be checking to be assigning iterations as well over here. Iterations. Okay, so if is looping, we're basically just going to go ahead and do this again. Okay, so it's never ending. Else, if it's not looping, then we need to do, then we need to be keeping track of our iterations. So iterations dot if iterations are greater than 0, iterations minus minus, else iterations okay, else equals 0. Actually, no, t equals 0. Otherwise, iterations is checking equals false, and that should do it. Okay, let's hook this up onto our FPS or to our weapon. No, to our FPS handler. The weapon itself will have its own shaker, but you will see this in a bit. So FPS handler public shake object camera shake. Then inside handle shooting, we will do camera shake dot. Yeah, we need to have this public camera shake dot shake. So let's do on the shaker shake object, and on the over here. Okay, now I kind of want to do a debug, so I cannot control this on the editor itself. So we'll do public bool debug shake, and if debug shake equals false, and then shake. So on the shaker, let's assign a curve. I'm just going to use a simple bell curve. Now another thing that we forgot to add is we need a multiplier. Okay, and the multiplier will be after we evaluate t multiplied with multiplier. Okay, awesome. So add that in. I'm just going to move this down here. I don't want to lock my cursor anymore. So hit play. So you have to check this camera, of course, and you can see that because I am setting it back to 0, I'm basically going down to, yeah, I'm basically ruining my camera. So how do we fix that? On the FPS part, or on the same object as this, I'm going to make this as tilter, and I'm going to parent this here. Now the tilter is actually going to replace my camera transform, because I know from the every child of the tilter is actually going to be at the same position as our camera. So let's hit play. Okay, now you can see we are figuring. So we just now need to fix the amount we are shaking. So you can see that this is way too much. So I'm just going to do like 0.2 and speed 19. Maybe even lower. 9.2. Okay, so as you can see, we now have the shaking. You can even go lower, but this added with recoil it will work fine for recoil. Yeah, for recoil. Awesome. So yeah, that's going to be it. Actually, before we go, let's say we want, because we will reuse this a lot, and so let's open up our script and let's do on the sec object, because we want to be reusing this a lot, or well, it's going to be useful, and I'll show you where can. Anyway, so we'll do sec axis. So here's the thing, this needs to be serializable. Then we could be using, first of all, let's take all of this and we'll see what we want to use. And sec is done. The T we will be passing in the E, and this can just export us back a vector 3, get axis offset. So let's see what we will need from in here. We're definitely going to need the T, and we need to know our axis as well. Okay, let's fix that. What was this? Animations? No. We want to know, do they have an axis? What's this? What's the definition? Oh, okay. They do have axis. So let's use the Unity one, because why not? And let's see how it is. Oh, switch axis. Yeah, okay, that will do. X, Y, and Z. Let's delete all of that. There's no case that, of course, it's going to be none, so we don't care about that. And then this will be returning us the target position. Okay, so let's see what we need. We don't need T, we don't need iterations, we don't need this secking, we don't need this, all this too, and speed needs to be unified. So okay, all this will work fine. Then that means in here we could be using a target position. We start from 0. Okay, then we can have, we don't need then multiplier sec curve. T we need. Okay, speed we need. Axis we don't need. We don't need this. We can just use public sec axis. Then in here we could be doing for axis dot length, target position axis I dot get axis offset on this T. So for this offset, each one of these is going to be returning us an offset. So if I want to add on more than one axis, so like this, if I want to add on the X as well as on the Y, let's do multiplier, let's do multiplier 0.05, and for the X let's add 1 and hit play. Okay, we can have, and of course we can add on the Z as well. Another thing you could potentially do is rotation axis. So let's rename this to rotation axis, but I kind of want to have a flag, use rotation for it. And actually it will be wise to also use public bool use position as well. So if use position, and do that. If use rotation, we'll do the same thing, but this time our target position will be target Eulers. Target Eulers, and this will be local Euler angles, target Eulers. Okay, so you can do that this way. Awesome. So let's just test this. Use rotation, use position. Let's not use position for now. Let's just use rotation axis. Let's say do something like this on one of the y axis by 1. Now by 1 for a rotation is actually really low because we're talking about rotation, so adding 0.5 on this, you see that it's not really doing much, but maybe that's what you want, or this. Okay, so let's say on the x-axis, let's say by 10. Let's hit play. Okay, well, that's not bad. That actually works as well. So just filter which one you want to do. Another thing that we can do with this shaker is actually put it on the weapon. So we can say shake object, use position, for example, and the position curve we're going to do, let's create a new one. That is all from 0. So I'll do something like this, or maybe something more explosive, something like this. Okay, so I'll do only one iteration by speed of 4. So let's hit play. And when I shake this, let's do by 0.5, I guess, on the Z. So when I do the shake, is actually adding it on the Z, on the Y, so the Z. Oh, because you can select multiple ones. Oops. Yeah, that's not actually what we want to be doing with this. And yeah, okay. Let's do public enum my axis. Let's do none x x y z. I think we don't need none, just remove it if that's the case. So let's do my axis x, my axis y, my axis. Oh, maybe it will have worked, but whatever. I don't know. I don't really. It doesn't really matter. We'll change it now. Anyway, so let's set up our shaker for the camera, which is still the same thing because it's fine. So let's set this to Z. Let's do the back shake. You can say it's firing like that. Of course, we don't need that. So we'll do 0.01 or maybe something like that. Open up the weapon hook, then we can do a method public void shoot, and we can assign public shake object and just do for each shake objects shake. And now after we shoot, you can just go to your current weapon shoot actual, and we can also put particles in here, etc. And okay, we have to assign it, however, on the sec object on our weapon manager. So this is why I'm splitting them, is so you can have more actually. So you can be seeking a lot of things, not just one. But for the most part, I think the base weapons will do. And you can see how it fires, which is actually pretty cool. Now I'm going to ignore the actual positions we don't do anything. Axis. Let's put it on the X. Okay, so that's at least for shooting. And yeah, I think I'm going to end the video here, and then we can continue moving on next week with the nice recoil and all these nice things. Okay, the rotation is terrible. I'm just going to use the sec on the Y and only Y, because we are going to use recoil for the other part, so I don't really want to bother with this. And yeah, we are not using position, that's why. 0.3 use position, something like that. But you know, just play test this, use it as you want. You can see that this can be really nice, really powerful, and really awesome. Another case we can actually do with this is if you add the sec object as looping, for example, say use position and do something like this on the main camera this time, on the Y. Speed, set it like 0.4. Iterations don't matter because it's looping. And hit play. And hit the back sec actually. Let's see. I think we're missing something. Oh yeah, we're missing this. So I'm going to start with debug, or you can start with second, I think, and say just do 0.01. Speed is looping with 4. Yeah, okay, you have to do debug set. Let's increase this. Come on, yeah, okay. You can see that you can fix the curve a little bit, and it will work like it's an idle animation. Maybe if you do something like so, it's not that tasty or something. I don't know, something like that. I'll just start with debug sec. Speed is very low either way. Yeah, okay, let's try that. Okay, so you get the idea. I'm just going to make it tiny because I don't really care for it at the moment. You probably need to have an animator do this, but even without one, you can see that we can do this very nice. Awesome. So that's it for this part. As always, you can support my Patreon for us. Yeah, as always, I'll see you on the next one, and you can do the thing, share, like, subscribe, all this stuff. Tell your friends, tell your local Redditor or whatever. And of course, most importantly is, you know, if you like what I'm doing, this support me so we can keep making all these cool things, because you see that there's no budget for them. Anyway, I'll see you on the next one where we will actually add some nice recoil and stuff like that. So yeah, probably next week.